In a previous video, we've created this lookup model case abstract class, which extends the model case, which we also created in the previous video. Model case, what it does basically creates the setup and teardown methods, which basically what they do is before each test, we migrate in a database. In other words, we create all the tables. And when the test is finished, then on the teardown, we are removing all these tables. So basically before each test, we are creating the tables, and after each test, we removing them. And then inside of the lookup model case method, what we did is we've created this first test called can create and return collection of models. When we are instantiating the model, this abstract method model instance, which any class that will extend this lookup model case will have to implement, will return the instance of the model. And then on this model, we'll create a given record in a database. And obviously here, lookup data, if we look at this one, lookup data comes from this model data class. If we scroll down, lookup data basically takes our data, if we want to overwrite any default ones, and merges them with what we actually specify here from within this method. So we specify that for the name, we want some fake name, basically some word added to the database. If we pass through some user data, and if this data contains the name index, which in our case all of these do, then this name will be overwritten with what we pass through in this array. And then second argument to this method, property, is basically the property which we call in on a faker. Because faker, as you may remember, has different properties that you can call on this, and it will generate different types of data. It may be email, integer, float, and so on. We are choosing just a single word basically, but you can still overwrite it when you call this lookup data method. Okay, so that's what we did in the previous video. In this video, what we're going to do is to actually create a model test class. And in the first model that we're going to create is going to be for the category. So inside of the model directory under our test unit structure, let's create a new class and let's call it category test. And this specific class will extend now this lookup model case. And as you can see, my IDE automatically highlights the entire line in red. It tells me that class must be declared abstract or implement method model instance. Because we are extending this model lookup model instance, there is a contract abstract method here, which basically tells us that when we are extending this class, you have to implement this method. So what we need to do is quickly create this method. And what I need to do from here is simply return the model that I want to run all these tests within lookup model case on. And for category test, it's obviously going to be the category class, which we haven't got either. So let's just return new category and import it here. It's going to be up category. And actually, it's not going to be just up category, it's going to be up model. We're going to store them all in model. Let's quickly create this class under the model. So we have PHP class category. Okay, so now we have this specific class available. So we're returning it. And then on this instance, we are going to create new records. Then we're going to fetch all records from the database. From this category table, let's quickly add this table property here as well. So protected table categories. And obviously another thing that we need to do is to extend this category class needs to extend model. So that now all these methods which we've created in the previous videos are now available on this category class as well. Let's just remove these spaces. We don't need so many of them. So that should potentially pass. This test, when we're going to run this category test, should potentially pass, because what we have now here is we're going to have new category. The new category create method is now available on this instance. Then we will also be able to call all records from within the categories table, and then we can obviously do all these three assertions. So let's go back to the terminal, and I'm within obviously the root of my project again, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to run just this specific test, this category test. So I'm going to start with PHP unit and then navigate to test directory, unit, and then we have model, and I only want this category test. So this is the test that I want to run. Hit return, and we have one test, three assertions, all of which pass, which means our method, our test, obviously everything we've actually expected the given instance of this model to do, it does. In other words, it's all good. So now category is pretty much finished. There's going to be just one extra method. Let's just add it straight away. It's going to be the method that will return all categories, and we're going to use this method in just a moment. So public function categories. This method will return all of the records, but I also want to order them by the name field. So return this, order by name, and then we want to get all of the records. Let's add doc blocks. So get all categories, and for this one we're just going to have, obviously it's a string. Let's just keep it like this. I think that's going to be fine. If we just go back to this all method, and this all method returns, if we go back to fetch object, database fetch object, so database, and we get fetch object because it's a collection obviously, and it does return statement fetch all, and statement fetch all, if we check here, it returns, if we scroll up, it returns an array. So that's what we should be expecting to get here. Obviously if we go back, so rather than mixed, we are going to return array of data. Before we close this category class here, I just want to show you what's happening within this categories methods, because you might be wondering, where is this, what's happening here? We just call this order by, and then we get all, and that returns all the records. How does this happen? Let's go back to our model class, and let's have a look at what's happening right at the beginning. So we have our SQL statement, which is just basic select all from given table. Now, from within the category class, we've overwritten the value associated with the table, which by default was just empty. Basically, there was nothing associated with it. So we've associated the name of the table categories. So now this statement will read select all from categories. Then we called order by method. Let's just go back to the model and find this method. So order by. Order by checks, basically gets this if we don't pass anything through, and we did because we specified which field we want to pass through, which was the name field within the database. So this first statement fails. We go into the next line, order by, then we exploding this using a full stop. There is no full stop, so we only going to have this statement. Basically this statement will basically evaluate to true because there's only one item in this order by array now. So order by close, and if we check this order by close, it takes the field and direction. So we've added to the statements array order by, field, and then direction. And what did we pass as a field? Basically with this order by, this field, we've taken the table name, concatenated with the field name, which in our case is going to be categories again, full stop, and then the name of the field, which was name. And then direction, which is by default ascending, that's what's been passed because we didn't pass the second argument to this call. And then we return basically instance of itself, of model. So we have this order by this call, we've added this this statement, this order by table name categories, full stop name, ascending. So that's the statement that we've added to the statements array. And after this, we called all method. So let's check the all method as well here. There we go. So this one takes the database instance and it calls fetch all, fetch object method on it. And fetch object takes the statement, SQL statement, then values that we want to bind to the placeholders within the statement using the prepared statement, and then the name of the class that we want the array to return basically as each record representing this given class. The full statement method, let's quickly have a look at what this does. So this one takes this SQL statement, which was select all from categories in our case for this category model, for this category class, and then this statement will simply implode all statements, everything that's inside of this statements array, and we only have order by clause. And then if there's anything that we are appending, and we don't in this case, then that would also be appended. So everything that we're going to get by calling order by all is going to be select all from categories. Let me just put it on a new line so you can actually clearly see everything. So this statement is going to return select all from categories, where actually we don't have any where. It's going to be order by and table naming categories, name in the ascending order. That's the entire statement that we're going to get by calling this order by name and then all method to finish it off. So that's the statement, and that should give us all of the records within the categories table. Okay, so I think that's a little bit clearer now. Let's close this category. Let's close the model. We can also close the category test because all the tests that we're actually going to run on this category for this category instance are going to be written inside of this lookup model case, and the same is going to apply to all these other lookup tables and models which are representing them. So let's close this category test and go back to our lookup model case. After the first test, let's create a new one which basically checks whether the model can update the record. So public function can underscore update underscore model, and let's indicate that it's a test. So doc blocks test tag, and we are going to start with the model again. So model equals this model instance, and now that we have model instance, we can create the new instance of the model with the record basically. So we're going to have model, we override this model here in this case, and then model create, and let's use again this lookup data, and for the name we want to say let's keep it the same way as before, so name 1, so we can easily identify it. So now having this model available, because it was an empty model, an empty instance of the class without any data associated, now using the create method we've created the instance, basically we've added the record to the table, and as you may remember, if I just click on this create, once we've added, if it's inserted, then it finds the record and returns it. So basically we're going to have an instance of this category class in this case when we're going to run on a category test. Now rather I've noticed that it's a little bit confusing actually. Let's name it model instance rather than just model, and the same here, model instance create, and let's put this on a new line as well separately. So now we have the model, and with this model we can do our assertion. So this assert equals, and I'm expecting name 1 to be associated with the property name of this model, because now we fetch this model, basically we got this model by using this create method. It added the record and returned the model instance with all the properties already associated with the values of this record. So this name should equal name 1, and if it did not, then we're going to provide some feedback. Could not create model with name 1. So that's the first. Let's quickly run it and see how we're doing. I'm just going to move my arrow up to call the previous test and hit return. And we have 2 tests for our sessions, all of which pass, all green, which is good. So after this, now that we have this record created and we're happy with it, let's now override this model. So we're going to do model equals, and then we're going to use model. Actually, let's use the model instance actually, and we're going to use the update method, and we're going to specify that name. This time we want to set to name 2, And ID of the record that we want to update is going to come from the model and its ID property. The model, we're referring to this one, which we've returned the first time round. Now we're overwriting, but this here, this second argument still refers to this previous one. Okay, and let's put these things on 2 lines so it's a little bit easier to read as well. So now once we've updated, we would assume that this model, its property name will equal to name2. So that's what we're going to check for. This assert equals, and again, on a new line, name2 this time, we're looking for the model name property, and let's just put semicolon at the end straight away. And message is going to say exactly the same as before, so could not create, sorry, not create, this time is update model with name2. And I think that's going to do for this test. Let's again run it. So arrow up, hit return. We have 2 tests now, 5 assertions. Obviously this new one's been added, and all of them pass. Now the last test we're going to do for the model is going to be to test whether we can actually remove the record. So public function can remove model. And again, let's indicate that it's a test. And we're going to start exactly the same way as before. So model, this time instance, let's use equals this model instance. And then we're creating the new model by using model instance, and we call create method with this lookup data. This time we're not going to pass anything by default. We just want to use default values. We don't want to specify exactly what we want the name to be. So Faker basically obviously has been able to generate some name for us here. And now we do models equals model all. So we have all of the records, and obviously at the moment there's going to be just one, because as you may remember, setup method, which we've got in the model case, if we go back, this setup method migrates all the tables, so creates them fresh before each test is run, and after each test we have this tear down, which basically removes all the tables. So we always, before each single test that we run here within this class or any other one, that is going to be extending this lookup model case, which obviously extends this model case. Exactly same scenario is going to be applied. So before each test we're going to have fresh set of tables. Okay, so we have all models. As I said earlier, we're only going to have one record here. So this assert count this time, count, and we're expecting this to be 1. So we pass in models, which is going to be an array. And assert count basically uses the count function to check the number of records, and then matches this, basically compares this to the first argument. And if it doesn't equal 1, then number of model records does not match 1, the message. Okay, let's quickly run it and see if it works. Again, let's clear the screen, Command K on the keyboard, arrow up, hit return, and there we go. 3 tests, 6 assertions, all of which pass. Now, because we are not going to be using this variable models anywhere, we can probably inline it. So let's just remove all this and put this model all directly within this assertion. Okay, the next thing, which is actually what we are testing for, is going to be a call to a delete method on the model. So model delete, and let's pass the ID of the record, model, and then ID. And after this, we're going to do this. Actually, let's just copy what we've got here, because we are going to assert that this time we get 0 when calling model all method. So model number of model records does not match 0 if it fails. Okay, let's go back to the terminal and quickly run a test. So clear the screen. We should have 3 tests. We still have 3 tests and 7 assertions, obviously, because this assertion has been added. We didn't add another test, that's why 3 tests. So everything seems to be passing fine. So we've tested whether we can create and return a collection of models, which is fine. Whether we can update the model and whether we can remove it. And I think that's enough for what we need. So now that we have one test for the category, why don't we straight away create a test for all remaining models which are associated with the lookup tables, which is exactly what we're going to be working on in the next video.